Hey, everybody. This is Devil Dog underscore 88 going live. Let's have that conversation. Let's have that talk. So, this conversation wants to go where we want to go in this conversation is back to the beginning, except we're going to look at different things that are possible. Little Red Bee, here, let's go. Hoorah. Great to have you. Don't forget to click like and subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Be a double pup in the channel. So we want to talk today about, well, first let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and have a talk about all the people we have covered once again on the people of interest in the Nancy Guthrie disappearance. People that were named, kind of do a little bit of talk on each one to see where we're at now on these individuals. It's pretty interesting when you look at it. We've been lately talking literally about Richard Nolette Jr., who was did an interview live with Sleuth Intuition. But now we're going back to the beginning. And remember, what you're hearing is all not, some of it is fact and some of it is opinion, but it's coming from myself, who has been in law enforcement and who has done cases. So I'm giving you from a perspective of law enforcement. Okay, that's where I'm coming from, a perspective of law enforcement. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit different than what you're normally used to hearing. So with that, let's get started. If you are new to the channel, click like and subscribe. Click like and subscribe. Here we go. The first thing I want to say is there was an arrest made. It's not breaking news because it came out yesterday, but it is news. We talked a little bit about a story with Celeste Rivas Hernandez, the 14-year-old that was literally unalived, taken apart, literally, found in a car of a rapper by the name David Burke. Calls himself something like DVDC4, whatever the hell it is. But his real name is David Burke in Los Angeles. And he was literally not only charged with the unaliving of this 14-year-old girl, but he also was charged and taken into custody. Don't have the further details on it, but we will go ahead and cover that later on. Not today, but we will cover it later on because we had talked about it before. So I just want to give you guys that info, just so you know. David Burke has been arrested and charged with the unalive of, I guess it'd be his girlfriend, although she was only 14, and when he knew her, she was only 12 to 13 years old. He was 18, and she was found in his black Tesla, literally all dismembered at 14 years old. So they have made an arrest on that. It'll go to trial in court just like everything else. So I just want to give you the heads up on that. Now I want to get into why we're going back and talking about who could be people of interest and why. We've covered this before, but now it's been a while and we want to see what new updates are we dealing with. Nosy Rosie says, hello, everyone. His name is D4VD. Yes, thank you there, Nosy Rosie. Appreciate that. But was not a rapper. He was not a rapper? I thought he was a rapper and or singer of some sort. Okay. There you go, everybody. Patricia, good morning, Patricia. Paige, good morning. Good afternoon. So I want to talk about literally, I want to talk about our first person that we're going to rehash again, going back to the beginning. And we're going to kind of talk a little bit about what currently is happening with this individual and what is not happening. I would chop that name up there. I'm sorry. Lyra. Wow, that's a tough name to pronounce. Lyra Kamari Kia. Good morning, dog. May God continue to bless you. Thank you for the great information. You're very welcome. Could you let me know what I can call you so I can give you at least call you by your correct name, although it's hard to really pronounce that name. So if you don't mind, let me know what you want me to call you. And thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. Nosy Rosie says, no, people keep calling him that, but it's not. He did a weird kind of music. Yeah, well, that's what I had gotten. So, hey, at least it's cleared. Nevertheless, he was a singer. He did sing. Um, and I have heard that they have categorized him as a rapper, but maybe he's just a singer. Nevertheless, David Burke was arrested for the unaliving of a 14-year-old girl that was found in his vehicle, in his black Tesla. So that is the update. We'll cover this more some other day, but that's where we're at. So with that, everybody, Carol Reed, hello. Good to have you, Carol. Smash that like button, everybody. Slash that emojis. All right, so the person we're going to start off with, once again, is TC. I'll just say TC. You know who we're talking about, and if you don't know, let me know. Nosy Rose said he sang about death a lot. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. So, TC, if you all don't know who he is, you'll need to ask. But otherwise, I'm going to try to abbreviate as best I can with all these people. TC was a son in law, the son in law of Nancy Guthrie. Now, what do we know about TC? Well, we know he's from originally Italy. We know that he married literally Little Red B. Yes, that's the one. Little Red B says it's the Tommaso, but she showed the picture of you know what. Anyway, so here we go. So, what has been the latest news on TC, everybody? Well, we know that he was the last person to see, and we're going back to the beginning because I remember smart investigators always go back to the scene of the crime. They go back to the beginning to see what they missed, and they go back to get updates. So, son in law, last one to see Nancy Guthrie alive. Alive. Think about that for a minute. Other than the people who kidnapped her, abducted her, or whatnot, you fill in the blank, he was the last one to see her. At apparently 6:30 or so, she took an Uber to her daughter Annie's house to have dinner and play games and whatnot on the 31st. On the 31st, literally, of January. After that, that was a Saturday night or Saturday evening. After that, at about 9:48 or so, the son-in-law, Tommaso, took her home for the night. Just took her home because it was time for her to go home. It was getting, later in the day. She needed to take her medicines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, that's a fact. That's all been documented. What hasn't been documented or has shown any evidence of, did Nancy Guthrie make it home? See, there is no CTV cam, there is no door cam, there's no picture and or video from Nancy Guthrie's front door cam that capsulates, at least that we have been told, that capsulates literally the son-in-law arriving at Nancy Guthrie's home. Now, they say that the garage door opened and 2 minutes later it closed. They said that that's where Nancy went through, was the garage. The problem is there's no still photo, there's no video. Now, I know, we all know that Nancy did not have a subscription. We also know now, and knew a little bit ago, that that cam was still recording literally. It was still recording. Yuli, we're going back to the beginning, Yuli, back to the beginning, talking about people of interest. So, thank you for being here, Yuli. So, now what we have is we don't have a still picture. We don't have a video of the son-in-law pulling in his car. It's dark. It is very dark. You would have seen the headlights come in. You would have seen the taillights leave. But there's nothing. And you ask, why is that important? Because they were able to go through Google and go through this cam through a back door, as they call it, and literally find footage of the picture that you have all seen of the perp that was on her front door. They also were able to show you pictures and or videos of the perp and his movement at the front door. They were also able to show vehicles that were passing by back and forth on Nancy Guthrie Street, back and forth. They were able to show you that. But what they were not able to show you was a still picture, literally, of Tommaso dropping off his mother-in-law or Tommaso leaving after he dropped off his mother-in-law. Lyra said January 11, supposedly. That was the other individual. Cal, that was the other individual. There was two pictures. They had one in the front door that was moving around, and then they had one on January 11th was supposed to be the other individual that did not have a backpack. The one at the door had two backpacks. So the one I'm talking about is the one with the two backpacks that was at the front door. January 11th, that was a different individual. They have come out, and that's fact because they come out and admitted that that's exactly what it was. The one that didn't have the backpack was supposedly January 11th. The one with the backpack in the front door is literally was that night when she was taken. Lemon says, did the garage door have a sensor? I'm going to say it probably did have a sensor. How do they know when it came and checked on her that? How do they know when it opened and closed? Apparently, there's something on that device that show it raising and going. Apparently, there's some type they were able to get on there and see the exact movements of that garage door. That's why they were saying that it only took 2 minutes. It opened, and then 2 minutes later, it closed. I don't know if there's a sensor, or if there's a readout, or if there's some type of generated, or if there's even noise by the cam. I don't know. I just know that that was fact that they came out and said that that door opened and 2 minutes later it closed. When Annie came and checked on her, do you think she used the garage to go inside? Just so many questions. Oh, I agree. Good question. Good question. The fact of the matter is, we don't know which door they came in through. They never stated which door did Annie and Tommaso come through because they have no clue. They never, well, they may have a clue, but they didn't state it. They did state that once they were in the house, they did see the back door open, the gate open, propped open with a couple of planters holding each of the door and gate. That's what they saw. But they never really said which door did they come through to come in through the house. You know what I mean? So that, then that's a fact. That's what they said. They've never identified if they came through the back, if they saw the gate propped open and they went, well, why is the gate propped open? And then went through the back and then came up through the back door. They never specified that. That's one thing they never specified. There's many things they didn't specify, but that's one of them. Good question, though. No doubt. No doubt. Good question. I would think that they probably came through the front door, is my guess. But we don't know that for sure. They probably didn't see the blood in the front because it was dark. You know what I mean? So I would have suspected that they would have seen it. They might have, but I would have suspected that they probably didn't. It is possible. And you're right. So many questions, Mandy. So many questions. No doubt about it. Ground ski. No vivid proof that Nancy made it home from TNA brings doubt in her return for sure. No doubt about it, Gronsky. And that's why we're going back to the beginning. We're seeing what the latest information is. So we don't have anything showing that TC brought his mother-in-law home. Nothing. Now, they may have something. They were able to get all this other video footages of the perp and all these other images of cars going by and whatnot, but they were not able to get anything of the son-in-law pulling in and pulling out. How is that possible? How is that possible, everybody? Think about that for a minute. Little Red Bee says it's a connected smart opener. Okay. Sounds good to me. The garage door is a connected smart opener. Nevertheless, they were able to distinguish that it opened for 2 minutes and it closed. There was just nothing showing anybody coming in. There was no footage of anybody pulling into the driveway or leaving from the driveway. That's the main point. That's the main point. No one saw the son-in-law pulling out or coming in the middle of the night, or I shouldn't say middle of the night, but it's dark, with his headlights. No one saw it coming in. With his taillights, no one saw it leaving. Think about that for a minute. Let that sink in. Good morning, Allie. Good morning. Good to have you. Mandy says, gotcha. Mandy, morning, Allie. So now we don't know, did she ever make it to the house? We can surmise that, yeah, the garage door opened, but that doesn't mean that she walked through the garage door. There is nothing saying she went into that house at that moment. Just saying, we don't know. Little Red Bee, I just had to shop for a new opener. That's how I know. That's awesome. Thank you for that information. Hey, all information on here is good information. So, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate that. Paige says, bring Nancy home. So you know where we're at now. We don't have any visible sign that says the son in law brought Nancy home. We have nothing showing that she went in. The only thing we have is a garage door open and closed within 2 minutes. That's it. That's all we have. So now let's ask the question, what was going on that night? You could say, why did she even take an Uber when she went over to Annie and Tommaso's house? Why didn't they come and get her? Maybe she was independent. Maybe she was like, no. Maybe, there's 100 and maybe more than that questions that one could ask. But the reality is, we don't know. Would you let your 84-year-old mother take an Uber? I wouldn't. I get it, she was independent, but I wouldn't. Just saying me. So now we have the fact that we do not have that major missing piece. Did she actually make it to her home or did she not? Think about it, everybody. Did she make it to her home or did she not? It's just common sense. See, what we're dealing here with is there's so much information that hasn't been literally presented so there we can't really make that assessment. So then the next question becomes, well, how did Sheriff Nanos, sheriff from Pima County, how did he go ahead and clear all the family? Ask yourself that question. How did he clear the whole family? How was it possible for him to say everybody's been cleared in the family? They were really cooperative, but yet we don't have any information. What I just asked you all, we can't even answer the basic, simple question: did she really arrive home or not? Did he pull in to the driveway or not? We can't even answer that. But somehow we're supposed to go ahead and accept the fact that without having that basic information, that they're cleared. I don't know how that works. Doesn't work in my book, wouldn't work in my law enforcement. I sure as heck I can't buy that. Growski says, what is the locking mech of the outer front door? I.e., can't it be open from the inside? I believe it takes a key to unlock the door. Now, the family has stated that there has been many times when Nancy has left the doors unlocked. It's a safe neighborhood. A lot of things never really happened in the foothills, in the Catalina foothills. Nothing really happens there. It's very safe. It's actually one of the safest places in Tucson, in that whole area. It is literally one of the safest places to live. So a lot of the family, her family, has stated on record that there is times, many times, that her mom would leave the door unlocked, or she would forget to lock the door. So yeah, that's where we're at with that. I heard Mandy said I heard that she might have had trouble seeing at night. Yes, she didn't have really good sight for night. That's usually why she would take that would make sense of why she took an Uber. I'm just saying, with the family, why would they allow her to take one? Why not just come and get her? It's only 10 minutes away. It was dark early January. Maybe that would be the reason for the Uber. Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Just still don't understand why the family just didn't come get her. They're only 10 minutes away. She's 84 years old. But you're right. Little Redby says, in my opinion, I see her phone, watch, and pacemaker pinged and connected at her home. Okay. So you see her phone, her watch, and her pacemaker connect. It connected at her home. Okay. Tanya, good point. Tanya says, if they use the garage there, should be data points. Police haven't raised that info. Should be data points. Yes. And I think that's how they determined that the garage door did open and then it closed. They were able to pull some data from some system to show that. Or, like I said, these cams, sometimes you can hear things coming out of the cam as far as noises. The key is they never said. They just said that it opened and closed 2 minutes later. See, the whole problem with this whole person right now with TC is he has nothing showing that he arrived there or that he left. It shows the Uber person arriving. It shows the Uber person leaving. It seemed like everybody was in good conversation, or, everything seemed normal. They did speak to the Uber driver, and he said everything was fine. He took her over there, dropped her off, and off he or she went. So they did speak to the Uber driver. But how is it that they were able to capture those moments and not TC arriving or leaving? Think about that. Think about that, everybody. Tanya says the door itself and the clicker. See, you can't clear people when you can't give the basic information that is needed that would help clear an individual. Now, let's pretend that Tommaso did drop her off at her house. Let's just say, for all sake and purposes, that she did. Even though we have no proof of that, they have given us no proof of that. Let's just say she did. Okay? Now, what else do we know about TC? Well, Mandy says, I feel bad for the Uber driver. Don't know if I would ever get over knowing I was the last person to see poor Nancy alive. True, true. Yeah, but supposedly the son-in-law saw her alive. That's what he said. Dropped her off. She went to the garage door. Garage door closed 2 minutes later, and he left. But there's no sign of anything of him showing up or leaving. Doesn't that make you think about what the hell, why, how come? How do they have video and still pictures of all these other things that were going by her house? The perp, the suspect that was in front of her door. January 11th, they had another person that was in front of the door. Different times. How is it that they're able to capture that and not him arriving or leaving? Tanya says he is a ass for not walking her into the house. Very good point. No doubt. How does he feel that he could have made sure she was in that house or no one else was in that house by taking her in himself? Right? How does he feel? Man, if I had just taken my mother-in-law inside the house, I might have heard somebody else in there and I could have helped her. That's common, right? That would be, anybody's normal thinking process. So now what else do we know about Tommaso? We know he's from Italy. We know he married Annie in 2006. We know that it's been reported. Now, this part is not factual, but we know that it has been reported that they didn't have a lot of money. Okay? We know that's what's been reported. They didn't have a lot of money. We know Tommaso worked at a teaching in biology at a school. He taught biology. We know that. And we know Annie did some crafting and whatnot, but let's stay focused on Tommaso. He worked as a teacher. He taught biology. We know that. Little Red B says they just not releasing the info, video, etc. We won't know until there is a trial, in my opinion. True, true, and that's why we're covering this. We're covering this because they're not releasing anything, and we're trying to make sense, and we're trying to put people of interest that we have talked about how and why they are people of interest. Tanya says, I would have such a guilty conscience, no doubt. Who wouldn't have a guilty conscience? I mean, anybody who has a sane mind would have a guilty conscience. I know they are still behind on their property taxes. Yes, and I remember you sent me that information. Absolutely. So here's the thing. With the money that they make, which is not a lot, and I do know that Tommaso just teaches, and I know for as far as for verification income, it's not like Annie was bringing home a lot of money. Yeah, she wrote a book, but that was a while back. That's when I think she had met TC in Italy or somewhere out there, and eventually they ended up getting married in 2006. So they buy a house that I believe is appraised at 650,000, somewhere in there. Number could be off a little bit, but I think that was the last I heard. 650,000. Now it has been reported, and this I do not know if it's factual, but it has been reported that Nancy gave them 200,000 plus to put a down payment on the house. Now that would make sense because originally Nancy was going to sell her house supposedly and move in with her daughter Annie and Tommaso. Mourn, Gene says. But then later took that sign down, had that real estate take that sign down and pulled her house off the market. Think about that. It would make sense that maybe Annie really didn't want, I'm sorry, maybe Nancy didn't really want to move in with Annie and Tommaso. Maybe she still wanted to enjoy her freedom, her own space. And that would make sense why she loaned them, gave them, or whatever, the money for a down payment on a house. And it was only 10 minutes away, right? She could then stay in her house, didn't have to move, and she could be happy. It's possible. We don't know what was the reason why she decided to pull her house off the market. No one's ever really made that clear. But if you put in kind of those pieces, it would make sense. It would only make sense that I'll pay for their down payment so that I can have my peace and quiet in my house. Makes sense to me. So, what else do we know about TC? Gene says, when did you come on? I was just watching yesterday. You weren't on yet. No, I just came on probably, everybody, about 1:15 or so, somewhere in there. You got us at the beginning. Mandy, I wouldn't sleep until there were answers. You would think, right? They should be reaching out to every single news outlet and social media, pleading with the public to help bring her home. Totally agree with you, Mandy. Totally agree. Totally agree. The problem is that even when people wanted to search, the sheriff of Pima County, Nanos, didn't want them to search because he said, and at some point he said, and it's been reported, that they had to get a permit to search. They had to get a permit if they wanted to search. Makes no sense to me. But let's stay focused on TC. Little Red B says the first payment was made at the time of the purchase, late 2025. There you go. All right, so we got the first payment was made in 2025, late 2025. We know that it's been reported that Nancy gave them 200,000 plus for a down payment on the house. Let's say that brings it down to $460,000 or so. How much is that payment? Does anybody know how much that payment is? How much do you think they're able to afford to make a monthly payment? That's not a cheap area, everybody. Nosy Rosie says, I agree, Little Red B. Next payment is not even due yet. Little Red B, not past due until May 1st of 2026. Gene, 5,000. 5,000. So we're looking at $5,000 a month for someone who works as a teacher in biology and someone else who literally, does odd things, makes some crafts, does those type of things. And I think she teaches as well to, some type of, she teaches something. I don't know if it's like arts or something to that effect. So how much money are they really making to be able to pay a 5,000, if it is a $5,000 monthly bill? I mean, think about what everything I'm telling you, because we're just covering one person right now, and that's TC. Gronsky says 200,000 is whole lot of money. Yeah, no doubt about it, Gronsky. No doubt about it. A lot of money. What else do we know about TC? We know that their car was taken in by the Pima County Sheriff's Office. We do know that, right? We know that their car was taken so that it could be processed. Standard procedures, looking for evidence. Being that was the last supposedly car she was in, other than the perps, maybe. Mandy says, why wouldn't they ask Savannah for a loan? I don't think that family is as close as they like to portray to the public. Oh, I agree with you wholeheartedly, Mandy. No doubt about it. Click that like, everybody. Click that like. Got to click that like for me. And if you're new, please subscribe. This is a great channel, and you can ask everybody who's on here. They will tell you. Gene says, give or take with interest, but it was said Nancy gave them the down payment while their other home was on the market. So did they pay it off? Possible? Possible. But we don't know that answer either. No doubt. Good point. Nosy Rosie, but I still do not understand why they wouldn't approach Nancy again instead of asking Savannah for help. Maybe they didn't want to ask Savannah because that was the little sister. Maybe they didn't want to ask Savannah because, a little pride there, asking your little sister for help so they can get a house. You know what I mean? It could be a lot of literal, more of a self conscious, uh, feel like less than by asking your sibling for help. It's possible. Carolina girl's in the house. Good to have you, Carolina girl. Kiki Can says, I am thinking that Savannah was playing them to be her mother's caregiver, paying them to be the mother's caregiver so that they did not have to put her in a nursing home and sell the house, perhaps around 50 to 100,000 a year. That's possible. That's possible, Kiki. But here's the thing: if that is so, why not make that publicly known so that when people are asking the question, how does TC and Annie, how are they able to afford something like this? That right there could answer how they're able to, right? Not that they have to, but it sure would clear a lot of information up. A lot of suspense as to were they out of money? Did they not have enough money? Was this a kidnapping gone wrong? Did they try to get money? Do you understand what I'm saying? Jean says, and her brother builds townhouses just up the road. So why didn't they just get a townhouse? Very good question. And I only found that out here recently. I didn't know that the brother did that. Kiki says $5,000 a month would cover mortgage, nursing home, or almost the same. Pace says justice for Nancy. Gronsky, a nursing home costs $10,000 per month. What else do we know about Tommaso? We know that they took the car, their only car that supposedly they had, Annie and Tommaso, to process it. We know that it was reported that they actually took the car from the sheriff's department all the way to Richmond, Virginia, where the FBI does a lot of their analyzing of vehicles or processing information. So their car not only got checked here in Pima County, but then was sent literally to Richmond, Virginia, where the FBI has their offices. Their offices really is in Quantico, but they have a place up there in Richmond that they were going to do all their processing of the car. Hey, Mandy says, I don't know that Cameron built townhouses in Tucson. Interesting. Yeah, I just found that out here recently. I have no clue. Literally, when I say recently, I'm talking probably within the last month or so. Nina Bronx, hello, Nina. Good to have you. Jeannie says he's in a band. That's true. He is in a band. I don't know how much he makes. I'm sure that's more of a maybe, you know, being in a band could be just to, the surge of just going ahead and, you know, a hobby, if you will, for a better lack of words. They've never disclosed how much they actually make or how much he actually made. Nosy Rosie says, yeah, a bad with how many others bandmates to share the profit with. Well, he had two other bandmates, two friends of his, who did have two other bandmates. What do you think? Playing at these dive bars, these little clubs, maybe these, younger clubs, older clubs, whatever. You're probably looking at what, $600-700 maybe at most at night. Divide that by three, two and a quarter, 250, somewhere in there. Maybe once a week you have a gig. I think it was more a pastime. It would make sense to me. Okay. Kiki Khan says, if I had money and I could pay my siblings to take care of my mother full time so that she could stay in her home, I would. That is nothing for SG under the table cat. No doubt about it. That's very, very true. Very, very true. By the way, by Nosy Rosie says, by the time they split the pay, nothing left but scraps. So really, we can't really count any money unless they were making more than that, but I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. And the only reason I say this is I knew people who played in bands, and it wasn't like you didn't make a lot of money. Matter of fact, you probably just made enough to eat for the night and drink for the night. That's what I'm thinking. So, what else do we know about Tommaso? Bronsky says little to no money playing in a band. No doubt. At least that's what I'm told by people that I know. So they took the car and they processed it. Now they took the car pretty early in this investigation when Nancy was taken, abducted, kidnapped. You fill in the blank. Okay. They had that car the whole time. Now, when I looked up when did they release it, because I thought they already released the car back to them. The only thing I could find was as of March 17 or something like that, they still had the car. Now, I thought they released it back to them already, and they might have. I just couldn't find any information. Now, when I looked it up, it said that a lot of people on streamers and a lot of people on TikTok and a lot of people were saying that they already got the car back, but there has been no confirmation that they have gotten the car back. Do they not have their car? Does anybody know for sure, for a fact? Do they have their car? Because everything I Googled and everything I looked, I didn't see anybody saying that they gave the car. They said they were going to. If I'm not mistaken, the Pima County Sheriff's Office, Nano, said they were in the process of doing it to give them their car back, but it hasn't been done, to my understanding. Who keeps a car for that long of time? Especially when you cleared them. If you cleared the family, why are you holding on to the car for that long? Think about that one for a minute. Thanks, babe. Why are you holding that car, which is, I think, their only car they have? That's what's been reported. If you cleared him already, cleared the family, why are you still have their car in your possession? Think about that for a minute. Now, I listened to other prior FBI agents, and they have said that is not normal. Gene says they were driving it the other day, Sunday. Okay. I couldn't find anything that they released it. I looked everywhere and I couldn't find it. And maybe they were. Why did they keep their car for so damn long? There's a video of them driving a similar car. I can't say it is the same one police had. Well, I know that they do have Nancy's car now, which is a blue, I think it's a Toyota or something to that effect. We saw them take that vehicle. The daughter Annie and the son Cameron went to the house and they both left and they took that vehicle with them. I don't know who's using it, don't know who has it, but it was blue in color. Yeah, blue Honda. Thank you, Gene. If these family was cleared from the beginning, as early as Nano cleared them, Tanya says it says an average they made $100 to $200 per hour in Tucson. Nancy had a Subaru. That sounds about right. So why did they have a car for so long? And Nano cleared them right away. Why did they need to go ahead and confiscate the car and take forever? And if they did get it back, it wasn't that long ago they got it back. For all that time, once again, the investigators, the people that I have watched, have stated that is just unprecedented. They just don't do that unless they believe that it was involved in a crime. So then the question becomes, why, when we see pictures of Tommaso coming to the house or showing up at the house, why does he seem so sporadic, so out of tune, so like, chaotic? You guys notice that at all? Gronsky, they were working on the GPS tracking on the car. That's what I heard. They were working on the GPS. There's a inside system that they can go ahead and know exactly where that car has been. Nosy Rosie says, or unless it was due to public pressure. Very true. Kay says, I feel like Annie was invested in her mother's care, but T resented it. If he did plan something, Annie was not aware, in my opinion. It's possible. It's possible. Little Red B says, because he is guilty as F. Tanya says, give him back possibly March 14th. Possibly. Because that's what I saw, Tanya, when I Googled it. That's exactly what I saw. They didn't say they did. They said they were. They said possibly March 14th. Mandy says, he is wearing gloves too. So weird. So you have them take the car February 1st, March, a month and a half, 45, 50 days, give or take, if they don't still have it, to process a vehicle. When they were cleared by the Pima County Sheriff's Office, by Sheriff Nanos, probably what, a week and a half, 2 weeks into the case? How is that possible? Little Red Bee says, Annie received text from Kalela. Also, I cannot rule her out. Right. Tanya says they were looking at the black box in the car. Correct. They were looking at any devices that are in there that would register where that car has been. Anything. Gronsky, kind of hard to get into the mindset of T. No doubt. No doubt. But now we also have Kalela, as it was just brought up, texted Annie and Tommaso on their phones that they were ready if they had received the Bitcoin so they could make the exchange. Now, I know Kalela was arrested, was charged, processed, and the charge was something like it had to do with basically like taking advantage of the situation, right? Fraud, taking advantage of a situation. I forgot exactly how they worded it. It was a charge that I've really never heard before, but nevertheless, it was a charge, and he did get arrested. Gene says, I guess Annie had a studio too. Make self jewelry. Yes, she did. Make jewelry, trinkets, um, little stuff, knickknacks. Yes, she did. And I know she taught something, and I want to say it was like something with arts or something. Little Red Bee says doors prop open at the time coincides with watches cleaning ritual day, part of the ritual. Nosy Rosie says, I have to unlock it. Nosy Rosie says, California keeps coming up in his case. It's really weird. It is very weird. No doubt about it. Give me a second, everybody. Give me 1 second. Okay. That's what's in there. Okay. Give me 1 second. I've got to do something real quick. Okay, it's already unlocked. So, let's see. California keeps coming up. In this case, it's really weird. Think about that. So Kalela messaged him, and apparently he said, if I'm not mistaken, that he got their number literally from searching their names. He got their number. That's how he was able to tag. I don't buy it, but it's possible. Very possible. And nowadays you can get numbers easily from people. Well, not easily, but you got to do your homework, but you can get their numbers. Wasn't Kalela also had something to do with that fetish, satanic cult, party gathering, or whatever the hell we want to call it? Somebody had pointed out Kalela had, like he knew people that were there. But I don't want to jump around. I want to stay focused on Tommaso. Gene says, the Juice, a streamer said Richard is being talked to by the police now, I guess. Awesome. Awesome. The Juice, a streamer. Yes. Good deal. Good deal. That needed to happen. Little Red Bee. No, that's a cover story. That's a cover story. He would rather get time for extortion than murder. No doubt about it. Gronsky, everyone should do a search of your own name to see what is out there. My info is so very old. It's a good point. It's a very good point. Yeah, they said that the detective showed up at his door shortly after the stream. That is great. That's great news. That is great news. Just to know that they're following a lead is great news, especially that lead. Tanya says, I'm at our hiking destination. Have a great day, everyone. I'll finish watching later. You got to be safe, Tanya. So, back to Tommaso. We know they took the car. We know they processed it. We know they kept it for a long period of time, may still possibly have it. We know that he was the last one, apparently, to see Nancy alive. We know that they never got his car pulling into the driveway or leaving. Doesn't that make you all wonder what really happened? I mean, the idea that they're going to do all this, and this is what puzzles me the most. I'm not saying he did it. Make no mistake, I'm not saying he did it. God bless, Tanya. Have a good one. What I'm saying is, all the facts and all of that does not add up. It just doesn't make any sense, everybody. It doesn't make any sense. Do I still feel that there's something involved with that individual? In my opinion, only my opinion, yes, I do. He was the third person on my list, and he's still the third person. We talked for the longest time about the latest news we got on Richard. That all made sense to me as well. What we don't know is the affiliation of everybody, this whole freaking group. We don't know what their affiliation is with one another, right? That's what's really the mystery. How do they know one another? What do they know about one another? So, Tommaso is a person of interest because A, Pima County Sheriff's Office and or the FBI have not given anything about him. Nothing. They won't even tell us. Alaska's in the house. Good to have you, Alaska. How are you doing? They won't even tell us when he arrived. They'll tell us when the garage door opened and they'll tell us when it closed, but they won't show anything about him arriving or him leaving. How is that possible? Think about it, everybody. How is that possible? And yet, somehow, mysteriously, he and the rest of the family is cleared. That just doesn't happen logically. That just doesn't happen. When you work cases, no one gets cleared. No one gets cleared until the person is either found or the crime is resolved. But especially family, the the abduction of old, the abduction of elderly people and or women is not very high in the United States. Of the elderly, it's not very high at all. Okay? It's like they say it's like I've heard it's as high as 92% that whoever has done something like that with an older person, it's somebody that knows the family. 92% of the time. Most of the time, people that are abducted are kids. How, parent dispute, custody battles, that type of thing. Most of the time. But for the elderly, very rare. And when it happens, it's always somebody who knew the family or knew the person. Little Ribby says, I totally agree 100%. So, what does that say about Tommaso? Does that say that he fits the narrative? He can't explain anything. He won't explain anything. None of the family will talk. Gronsky says statistics do not lie. No, they don't. That's why they're there. That's why law enforcement uses those statistics to see whether something makes sense or not. I mean, you're talking 8 or 9 out of 10 know the person or know the family when it comes to that. Sometimes it's staring right in front of you and you don't even know it. So, Tommaso, in my opinion, is not cleared. He hasn't been cleared. Tommaso, right now, to my understanding, the FBI said nobody's cleared. They don't care, but they don't care 2 iotas of what Sheriff Nano said. They're saying nobody's cleared, which is how it should be. What did we see lately? So we saw video and pictures of Tommaso coming from the backyard of Nancy Guthrie. We saw him pulling up. I think it was JLR, who actually, by coincidence, and and Alex, who was there sitting, filming or streaming. JLR just happened. He just said that right out of the bat, he turned in, just was going to go to see what's going on. And out of nowhere, here comes Tommaso hauling ass. And he's like, oh my God, that's Tommaso. And then he goes to follow him. And then boom, Tommaso pulls in the driveway, jumps out of the car, goes to the back of the house. And they're like, that was Tommaso. Then another vehicle pulls in. I know you guys heard this before. Another vehicle pulls in. And they think it's law enforcement. It's in an unmarked, could be even FBI. It's in an unmarked vehicle. And the person gets out and goes, knocks at the door of Nancy's house and goes calling for Tommaso. And he never comes to the front. He never opens the door. He never comes to the front. And when finally that individual leaves, whoever that individual was, they're saying it was unmarked, undercover law enforcement. When that car leaves, it's not a minute to minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes at the most. Here comes Tommaso coming around the corner on the side of where that treehouse is at. That treehouse that sits in the backside by the garage. He comes coming around, gets in his car, and leaves. Now, the question is, was he hiding? Did he not hear the person calling for him calling for his name, calling his name out? Why did he make contact with this individual? Maybe this individual had information. Maybe they wanted to tell him some information that they had discovered. But he did not come out till a minute, no more than a minute and a half to 2 minutes later. He comes right around the corner. When that car leaves, he comes around the corner, gets in his car. Of course, he has stuff in his pockets, and he could have been doing anything. He could have just been watering the garden for all we know. But why didn't he come out? He had to have heard. You would think. It's possible that he didn't hear, but ironically, right when the car leaves, then he comes around the corner. JLR captures it on his stream. Alex captures it on his stream. How do you explain that? Is that a coincidence? Really? You see, in law enforcement, when you start putting all those pieces together, everything I've been telling you, there's a pattern. And the pattern starts to paint a picture. And the picture that it starts to paint is something's not right. Marie White, oops, new. The picture starts to be painted, and the picture that's being painted is something is odd, something is off here, something is not right, something is not making sense. That's what the picture is being painted as, because none of it's making sense. The mannerisms, how he comes from the back, the mannerisms when he spoke, I believe it was to Tucson, and Tucson was trying to talk to him, and he told him that not to video him or nothing, not to take any pictures of him. And that may have been even DLR. It was one of the streamers. Maurice Wright says, right, but since they installed those cameras, how did he not see the person there? Is my point. True. True. So you're seeing a picture being painted that nothing is making sense. And I know you can't paint nothing makes sense, but you got to think. Nothing in this picture is making sense. If anything, there's so much doubt and confusion. And we're only talking about TC right now. Now, these people are not saying a word. Yeah, they came out one time. Savannah, Annie, Cameron, at the very beginning. But you're not hearing nothing. I mean, absolutely zero. And I think for a lot of people, that really bothers them because they're like, wait a minute. That was my mom, I'd be out there looking. If that was my mom, I would turn I would leave no rock unturned. Nosy, Nosy Rosie says they would have annoyed me as well. Some streamers are very intentioned, but well intentioned, but really annoying. No, I agree. I agree with that. So now we are at the point that you're asking the question: Did Tommaso did Tommaso have any involvement in what has happened? And we honestly can't answer that with 100% accuracy. But what we can say is a lot of the information that's come out surely says he is definitely not cleared, irregardless of what Nanos has said. So now we're back, and that's why we're back to the beginning, because we want to know what else has happened since then. Khan says, I don't think that he had permission and they caught him on camera and the security showed up but was cleared by the family that it was him. You ever ask yourself why? I'm going to throw this out there. Why Savannah's not there? No, she's got to work. I mean, right? She's got a family, got her husband. They got to work. That doesn't stop. Okay, just for whatever it's worth, that doesn't stop. You have a family, you have a husband, you have kids. You have responsibilities. So hear me out on this. Have you ever wondered if maybe the reason Savannah is not there is because maybe she feels something inside? And this is all just a theory, okay? This is all just a theory that she feels something inside of her that even she knows this doesn't make any sense. This is not right. Something is not right. She's hearing the noise. She's hearing everything that's being said. She's asking herself possibly, gosh, did my brother-in-law have something to do with this? Is it possible? Of course it is. And so what do? You just don't go back there. You distance yourself and you don't go back there. Not because she's a public figure, they have to present themselves right like everybody expects them to. But the reality is that could it be that the reason she's not there is because in her heart of hearts she feels something's just not right and she doesn't want no part of it? I mean, think about it. I know they all three, Annie, Tommaso, and Savannah, walked over at the beginning when they went to the shrine that they made of all the yellow roses and flowers and whatnot that were left at Nancy's house. I know they all went there arm in arm, hand in hand. I get it. I also get that was kind of like not that was kind of like towards not the beginning, but pretty damn close to the beginning. I say beginning, I'm talking within the first maybe month or so. But since then, you have heard and saw nothing. Crickets. And then you ask yourself, why? Just the other day, Mandy says, out of sight, out of mind situation. No doubt. No doubt. Without a doubt. Paige says, she's above getting dirty in the desert. I don't know. SUS, very suspicious in my opinion. Rosie says, anything is possible at this point. See, the idea, literally, that she is not there does speak volume. Thank you, Paige. The idea that her not being there really does speak a lot of volume. Now, here the other day, she was getting ready to do an interview with Anne Hathaway on a movie. And this was just like yesterday, the day, I think it was yesterday. Yeah, I think it was yesterday. And in the process of doing the interview with Anne Hathaway on the CBS and on her show, the Today Show, She abruptly leaves. Something comes in and she leaves. And then Hoda Kotb ends up taking over that interview. Something was said to her, obviously. Then, before the show is over, she ends up coming back at the very tail end of the show being over. Now, the reason I bring this up is because we all know that yesterday the FBI came out and said that they now have a type of hair follicle, a hair that was, I thought it was the bed sheet or the bed that they found as hair follicle. Then I hear from somebody else that it was the restroom. So I don't know where in the heck they got this from. But I heard it was a hair follicle from the bed at the beginning. And then later I'm hearing somebody else talk about it was from the restroom. So I can't even tell you where the hell they got it from. But apparently they got something. They don't know whose it is. They're going ahead and they're taking it, and they already taken it to the FBI headquarters because they have probably the most sophisticated equipment. And they are looking to run it. And it may take a while. It could take up to 6 months, maybe even a year before they even have any results. Think about that for a minute. Gronsky, they put the flowers at the memorial about a month after abduction. Okay, thank you. That's almost exactly what I thought. It was about a month, and haven't been back since that we know of. Paige says, too rich in my opinion. Smiling. Hey, folks, forgive me for coming in late. You're good. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you smiling. Don't forget to click the like, everybody. Click that like. Smash it. Image to uphold, says Paige, in my opinion, no doubt. Come on, 75 days later, an open house. I agree. So they found a new hair, right? See, and it's not even to say that it's a hair of maybe a suspect. I mean, there was so many people going in there, right? Who's to say somebody's hair follicle didn't fall off? And like I said, I heard that it was from Nancy's bed, only to hear later that it was from the restroom. So I really can't honestly tell you which one is correct. But I've heard both. Gronsky says, my doctor thinks she is a snob. The idea is that something was told to her that abruptly had her to leave. And we all know what the information was yesterday. So you could almost surmise that she was getting told, hey, FBI, they got a hair follicle, and they went ahead and the FBI has it and they're going to process it. They probably didn't say it's going to take 6 months to a year. They probably didn't say it's going to take, they probably didn't give a time, but according to a lot of uh, hearing people talk and giving their opinions, they're saying it's going to take a while. It's not going to happen overnight. So then comes the question. At that time, Tommaso's running ragged. Now I'm bringing it back to Tommaso. He's running ragged. They're putting up signs in their homes, no trespassing, you will be prosecuted, the whole 9 yards. They are making it clear they are not going to talk. Tommaso, Annie, Cameron, at this point, Savannah. No one is going to say nothing. Now they could be being told by A, their attorneys, or B, They could have been told by the police not to say anything, just keep everything as status quo, because maybe they got somebody on their mind or on their radar. Maybe they know somebody that they're working on. They're trying to make this case. And it's possible. It is very possible. It is very possible. So maybe that is why they're not saying anything. We just don't know that. We don't have that answer. And that's the difference. We don't have any answers on that. So, what this conversation today is about is what was the latest on Tommaso, or as Savannah would call him, Tommy. What is the latest? And the only thing late that came in was when he went to the house of Nancy. He wouldn't come out until the person left. Came out, seemed very suspicious. Seemed very, very suspicious. He seemed very nervous, very, worried. Had things in his pocket. They were identifying all these things. Then the question is asked, what is his story? I'm not saying he's guilty in anything. I'm just saying the picture is pointing that picture is not making sense. And I do believe that's why Savannah's not there. In the heart of hearts, maybe she sees or feels something that just doesn't make sense. Bronsky says tea is just so dark. No doubt. No doubt. Deborah, this man name is Richard No Lead. He looks like the face mask on Nancy Gotcha. Oh, yeah, we're going to cover him again. We've been talking about him that I wanted to change this up to go back to the beginning to start bringing back individuals to see now where do they all stand. Now what is happening? What is new? What is the new development? And we're not done with Richard yet. We're going to get back to that because I do believe everything he was saying is so literally specific. So that's where that's at. So that is what's going on there. The idea that literally he is not cleared, everybody. He's never been cleared. And sometimes police will use that. They'll use that tool to say, oh, yeah, everybody's cleared. So that people will let their guard down. And so people will go ahead and literally drop their guard and make that fatal mistake on that text or that phone call. Or they'll go somewhere they shouldn't be going. Or they'll make contact with somebody that's a part of this. They do that. That has been known to happen a lot. That's just one of their tools in their toolbox. I'm just saying there's a lot there. There's a lot there that's unexplained. Alaska says he definitely gives off a vibe. Deb says this man named Richard. Oh, no doubt. We covered that one, thoroughly. Thanks to Sleuth Intuition, his interview with him. So, what else do we know about TC? Anything? That's awesome, Lisa. That is awesome. Yes, Alaska. That's who we're talking about. Does anybody have any takes on your opinion on TC? Anything? Anything you've heard new? Anything that you have heard through the grapevine of other streamers or other podcasters? Gronsky says CSI class. Gene says, does anyone know if they brought the sniper over Rose Canyon Lake? AJW is searching on foot now. Oh, the sniffer. Got you. The sniffer. Sniffer on the helicopter. I haven't heard yet. Like I said, they'd be crazy not to do that simultaneously. Talking to, talking literally to Richard and then going ahead and searching Rose Canyon Lake. Sleuth is at Rose Canyon Lake looking for Nancy. I think he has a unwavering camera. Word has is LE is taking to talking to Richard, but unconfirmed. Got you. Thank you, Carolina girl. Appreciate that. So see, we just covered literally. Yeah, he's fishing, says Alaska. That's a good way to do it. Say you're fishing and hey, do what you got to do, right? Amen. So, no doubt, you're very right, Gronsky. It is a very hard search for anywhere in Arizona. Using a fish finder to find bags of parts, Richard's tip. It'd be so much easier if the FBI and Pima County Sheriff's Office would be doing this. It would so much be so easier because they have people that do that. This is not their first rodeo. Why they're not doing it, if they're not, is beyond me. Rosie Nosey says Richard is very weird. His YouTube page has things about an old lady attraction. Yeah, I didn't want to talk about that one, but you're right. You're right. He did say that, Barb. You're right. 100%. He did say that. Well, what do you all think about TC? Are you good with what we've covered so far about him? Is there anything that we left out that we need to mention about TC? Anything? Can you guys think of anything? Because we probably won't come back to him unless there's some breaking news that brings his name up, or unless another development comes on another lead about TC. We probably won't talk about him for a while. I just wanted to rehash the things that we do know and the things that we don't know. Are you guys good with what we've covered so far with TC? Just simple yes. One for yes, two for no. One for yes, two for no. Are you guys good on what we've covered? Pace says yes. Okay. Anybody else? One for yes, two for no. Are we good with what we covered so far for TC? Have we covered everything that even you guys, the things that you know about TC? Barb says, how is it that law enforcement has pictures of the perp from the camera, but have no other pictures of him coming or going from the house? And we said that earlier in the live. You're exactly right, Barb. That's why there's no way in hell he can be cleared. But yeah, we did cover that already. And you're right. That's why I feel like there is no way that you can clear this individual. There's just no way. Not unless someone's able to give you that reason why. Gene says yes. We covered everything about him. Who says they don't? Says Nosy Rosie. Gronsky says he has hurt the image of the family. We can't believe anything. Time frames, nothing. Lisa, yes, dog. Good job and thank you very much. So that's what I wanted to cover was Tommaso. And you know what's kind of crazy? Tommaso is kind of one of those that there's so much there, and yet he's just the beginning. It is just the beginning. Wilmo says, I don't think TC had anything to do with it. Really, Wilmo? And you don't think TC had nothing to do with it? Interesting. Little Redby says, do we know if TC is close with Nanos? I think they are, to be honest. I heard that somewhere that they were close. I did hear that. Wemmel says the risk doesn't cover the reward. Well, it depends on how much reward will take care of your needs if you're at that breaking point. But I understand what you're saying. Rosie Nosy says that's the reason I'm not buying the Tommaso angle. There's no angle. Rosie Nosy, there's no angle here. What I just gave you was information about Tommaso, the first person of interest. Because there's many other people of interest. I'm not saying he did any. This is not an angle to try to push this on him. I'm just laying out the information on what was stated, what was given, and what was not presented. That's all. The woman was 84, so how long did she have? I don't know. I don't think we'll ever know, will we? We'll never know how long did she really have. I would look to see if there's any info about Richard and any of those people. Did Richard see a TNA their house? Oh, that's so true. Very true. Very important. We will get to that. Barb says at this point they could say aliens abducted her. We know we know very little, hard to understand. Little Rebby said if it wasn't for all the facts and evidence, I wouldn't either. Laughing out loud, no doubt. Rosie Nosy, I understand that, but anything beyond that is not probable. Anything beyond what is not probable? Nosy Rosie, explain that for me, please. Anything, I understand that, but anything beyond that is not probable. However long she had, it was hers to have. Amen. It was nobody's right to take that from her. Amen. Well said, Nosy Rosie. Well said. Little Red Bee, those texts are damning, in my opinion. Anything beyond the fact that he was the last person to see her. So true. So true. So very true. So that's where we're at on TC. That's the information that we have gotten, and that's the information that we haven't gotten. And that's what the picture is painting. Wilmel says, I still think that the day workers from Mexico would be the people that could have pulled this off the easiest. It's possible, Wilmel. It is very possible. I know you stuck with that theory, and hey, that's very probable. And we'll cover them one day here, too. Smiling, does anyone think Richard Nolet Jr. might be involved? Well, no doubt. You have to think he is because everything he has stated, in my opinion. He has nothing to gain by lying. Nothing. Zero. Nothing to gain by lying. Okay, let me say this. We're done with TC at this point. We are done. I just wanted to recap that with TC so that you guys could give your opinions and we could kind of go back through, the process. Yes, right now the hottest topic is literally Richard because he just gave those interviews. Okay? I'm shifting gears here now. Richard has given so many details and so many facts that it's very probable that he knows more than he's saying. That's no doubt. He has to know more than what he's saying because he has literally stated such by telling Sleuth Intuition that he wants to keep talking to her, that he doesn't want this to basically end, that there's so much information he wants to run by Sleuth, so therefore he is wanting to talk more, right? He is wanting to give more information. He does not want this to end. But he also knows that if he's lying on the information he gave, and someone does happen to go to Rose Canyon Lake, and not find nothing, his time of having any credibility or any conversation is done. So what does he have to gain? Because he really wants to talk. Nosy Rosie, the more I hear about Richard, the more I think that he is in the perp also. And fact that he is so annoyed by people connecting him with this makes me wonder. Gronsky, his statements seem very guarded. They do. Look, I don't know how they would get the body up there. I don't know how they would do everything. Hello, Gene. I don't know how they would do all the things that some streamers are saying are impossible. What I will say is that if they have been doing it for this long, they have their ways on how to do things. It just makes sense, right? It's like if you live on a rocky road up a hill, you're going to know how to maneuver that because you do it every day. I mean, that's just common sense. People who don't live there, who don't do it every day, they may have a hard time processing that. But people who do this all the time, just like riding a bike. And that's how you got to look at it. That's why I think that it's not hard to envision that what he's saying is true because it's not the terrain that's going to stop it. The only thing that's probably going to stop it, if in fact it's happening, is to get caught. A year, a YT. You think, okay, YT raised money for the fish finder, but is only going next Tuesday. YT raised a YT a YouTuber raised money for a fish finder, but is only going next Tuesday. FBI should go today. Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt. Nosy Rosie says exactly. Streamers that are saying that it is impossible are saying it is impossible for them, but they don't have the mind of this sick person. That's fact. That is totally fact. Absolutely, 110%. Yeah, I kind of figured it out. Little Red Bee, YT is YouTuber. Thank you. Took me a while, but you're exactly right, Nosy Rosie. That is so true. People who have been doing this, that Richard has claimed, have been doing this for a long time. It's not something that's uncommon. It's not something that's impossible. It may be impossible to somebody, like I said, who doesn't live there, but not to somebody who's been doing this for a long time. You know what I'm saying? That's how it works. So, do I think that there is enough credibility or enough information that was given by Richard Nolette Jr.? Absolutely. They need to not only talk to him, which I hope they're doing now, like someone has stated that they are having a conversation or whatever the case may be, not verified, but that's what the word is. But they should have somebody over there, some divers going in there and seeing what they find. Because you either verify it that she's not there, or you verify that she is there, and now the focus becomes on him trying to give information on who are the other perps that did this. And the reality is that I'm not so sure. And I say this. There was 3 people, he said. I am not so sure. Who is that third biker? His brother? The brother's son? Could it be Richard? Think about that. He always talked about his brother being the nice groomed one. He liked, did his eyebrows and everything. And you know what? When you look at Richard, he looks the same way he's talking about his brother. Barb, Richard has been talking to Salute for days. LE. LE should have been out there already. No doubt about it, Barb. No doubt about it. Click that like, everybody. Do me that favor. Click that like. And if you are not a subscriber, subscribe for free. You're exactly right. No doubt about it. I've told you all before, it would have been a no-brainer for me to call out a search team divers to come in and check the area out. No-brainer. That's simple. That's simple of making that decision. I know we can't always chase after every lead that comes out. I get it. But you cannot ignore a lead that has so many integral details of what's being said. You can't rule those out. If somebody said you had to go to the moon to get Nancy back, that's one thing. But going 36.6 miles to the lake from where Nancy lives is not asking for something that's unreasonable. Let's just be honest. SG could even pay for the search independently, even if she is not in the lake. I would, but the law is not taking it serious, in my opinion. I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. And didn't Savannah give a donation to help missing people? How to help find missing people? Well, I think this could go to that, towards that, in some way, shape, or form. See, everybody, the whole idea here is to understand that when you're talking in details, that is the best thing you could have someone talk when you're trying to resolve a case as an investigator. Most important things you got have to know, and they teach you this all the time: who, what, where, when, and why. Most investigations can't find some of those. Some of those who, what, when, where, why. Most investigators can't get those. That's the hard thing to do, is get all those elements. And this man, Richard, just gave the who, what, where, when, why. We always say we need somebody has to know who this person is. Somebody has to know who this person is. Well, yeah. And when a person comes forward and says, I know this person, this is who it is. If someone goes ahead and gives that information, why are we doubting it? Why are we just not following the lead? Makes no sense. Capture Dandy says, we're true crime sleuths. We're true crime sleuths. You're talking to us like it's our first rodeo. Well, you know what? Maybe to me it is your first rodeo there, Capture. Very well could be your first rodeo. But I know for a damn sure it ain't my first rodeo. That's a fact. I am not sure if you know this, but Guthrie Mountain is near Rose Canyon Lake. I did not know that. Thank you. That is very telling clue. No doubt. No doubt. Melissa says, were you in JR's live last night? I was. I was for a little bit. Yes, I sure was. Little Red Bee. Maybe because Richard seems a little too broken. He's definitely had a psychiatrist, according to himself, for 14 years. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Capture says, now there's Guthrie Mountain. If it is, that's what it is. I'm not sure what, you know, loss of misinformation. Capture says, Capture Dandy says lots of misinformation. Capture 5603 always has been. Look it up. Very good point, Kiki Khan. Barbara, if Richard isn't telling the truth, he sure has one hell of an imagination. No doubt. That's a fact. No doubt. No doubt. No doubt. That is a good one. But then again, he does have, or he did have up until a few days ago, a psychiatrist that was supposed to be helping him get through all this hard times that he had dealt with as a kid. No doubt. In law enforcement, that's what you look for is those elements. That is what you look for. You look for those key things, those little nuggets, the little ones, the ones that go over, where people overlook certain things because in their mind, it's just not equating. And I'm telling you, this man gave us a lot. Now, the proof of it, is it valid? We don't know. What's it going to take it to become valid? They're going to have to look in the lake and they're going to have to find Nancy. And then that's either a make it or break it for Richard. Let's see here. Kiki Khan says, just Google it, not misinformation. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do, Capture. Just Google it. Barbara says, if you have nothing to hide, you hide nothing. That sounds like a fortune cookie, but it is true. No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
He's live right now.
Who is it?
Sleuth Intuition. He's out by the lake.
Okay. All right, everybody. Let's go ahead and end this conversation. Sleuth Intuition, I have just been informed that Sleuth Intuition is at the lake currently right now. So let's go ahead and end this live so that everybody can go over and check out Sleuth Intuition. He is live and he is at the lake. So just want to let you all know, I'd rather you guys listen. Sleuth Intuition is live right now, Gene, and he is at the lake. So I'm going to go ahead and end this live so we can all go over and see what he's finding. I think it would be very informative for all of us to see what he finds over there. Mandy says, thank you for your great stream. No problem, Mandy. Just subscribe. Be a subscriber. We come on every day. Little Red Bee, bye. Thank you. No problem. Get over and watch Sleuth Intuition. He is at the lake currently right now. With that, everybody, like I always tell you guys, it's all common sense. Everything is common sense. And you got to remember that. You got to remember that. Till tomorrow, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for spending some time. Get over and watch Sleuth Intuition. Let's see what he finds. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you all. I'll try to go on later. I can't guarantee it, but I will try to go on later. I just can't guarantee it. But I'm going to go to Sleuth Intuition and watch to see what he finds. With that, everybody, God bless. Semper Fi. Bring Nancy home.